Direct from Kansas City, it's Comic Book Late Night with Captain Logan! Featuring brand new comic book reviews, thoughts on comic news, obscure character of the week, and a little something from the comic vault. And now, here's Captain Logan!
Hello everyone, I am indeed Captain Logan, and it's time once again for Comic Book Late Night. And I've been thinking a little bit about what it would be like if my life were a comic book. And I've been wondering if it would be fun or not. And I was thinking it would be really cool if my life was a comic book, assuming that I was the only person who knew it was a comic book. I wouldn't need any other superpowers. Like, even if I couldn't fly, or have heat vision, or be able to cause spontaneous human combustion, I wouldn't need any of that. Because living in a comic book without anybody else knowing that it was would be like already having superpowers. For instance, take narration boxes. Now, sometimes it would be a little bit obvious, especially at the beginning of a comic. You know, you open it up and you read the first narration box, and it says something like, Captain Logan eloquently delivered his weekly monologue with expert comic timing. I mean, I know that already. I wouldn't need to read that in a narration box, but take something that might happen in the middle. Meanwhile, in his lair, Doomsvince planned Captain Logan's violent demise. I mean, that strikes me as something that I might want to know about. You'd have a little bit of a knowledge about the future, because not only would you have narration boxes, but you'd also have the following panel. I could look to my side, or possibly down below, and I would know exactly what was going to happen next. In the next panel, that guy punches me in the face. No, he doesn't, because I amputate his arms, and then in the next panel, he no longer has arms, so he can't do that to me. Although it kind of begs the question as to what the cosmic plan of the universe would be like in a comic book world. Just like we don't know what it would be like here, you know, in the here and now, we wouldn't really know what it was in a comic book either. I mean, if it was already preordained in the next panel, would you be able to change it? But for all intents and purposes, it seems like you would have you know, future premonitions. You also would have instant telepathy, right? Because anytime anybody thought anything, you could see it in a thought bubble. Somebody's thinking something bad behind your back, you know, and you can actually tell what they're thinking right there because you just conveniently read what's in the thought bubble. You'd also have the ability to skim whenever someone was too long-winded. So you wouldn't actually have to pay attention to every word they said because you could just skip through. It'd be kind of like having Cliff's Notes. I imagine, though, that I would get punched in the face a lot more often than I do in real life. And honestly, the most important question is, if my life were a comic book, would anybody pay $3 to read about it? Hey, I got a fantastic show for you tonight. I'm going to do a bunch of comic book reviews. I'm going to review new books from this week. I'm also going to review books that I didn't have a chance to review last week. So I'm going to do something I haven't done yet that I will probably do every so often when I have something like this, when there's a lot of books to read, and that's going to be rapid-fire comic book reviews. And here they come right now. Okay, we've got tons of comics to look at this week, so let's get started. First of all, Fantastic Four number 587, the big black bag death issue. This is really good. This is really quite fantastic, and spoiler alert, I will tell you who died because the Associated Press has been telling everyone who died, and so chances are you probably know by now. But if you don't want it spoiled for you and you want to read the issue, don't watch the rest of this until you've read the issue. The person who's killed is Human Torch, and I like how it's done. I like, you know, he goes out in a blaze of glory, just like he ought to. At the end of last issue, there's a really good chance that it could be any of them, and then the way that it's set up for Johnny, you know, there's a really good chance that it could be Ben, but you know, someone has to stay behind to manually put the shield up so that all these giant bug creatures don't get into, our world and kill everyone. The thing is, Marvel, like I said, has been trying to get everybody to buy this thing, but if you haven't been keeping up, you're probably going to be a little bit lost with this issue. And frankly, I've only been reading for the last 4 issues, so there were some things in here that even I was a little bit lost on. The kids are really prominently featured in this, and so I had to really kind of catch up and figure out who was who and what powers they had and all that. There's some really fantastic reveals. I love what's done finally with, the wrap-up of Susan Storm and Namor's arc. I really like how she stands up to Namor. It's really fantastic. And then the reveal with the Galactus and Reed stuff is really neat too, where we find out that Galactus isn't actually trying to eat this new world, but he actually wants to destroy it. And so there's more mysterious stuff set up. Anyway, a really stellar issue. I've been loving everything about this series, and I plan to continue. Next up is Avengers number 9. This is probably my favorite issue so far in this series. And once again, it's Bendis writing people just standing around again, but this time they're talking about something really interesting, and I love all the debate going on in this. This is mostly about the other Avengers and frankly lots of other folks in the Marvel Universe being upset when they've discovered the Illuminati. They each had a pact to keep one of the Infinity Gems and hide it away so that nobody could get a hold of them, but they weren't allowed to tell anyone about it. And now that Captain America knows, now that Steve Rogers knows, excuse me, he's furious with Iron Man. Now, I'm still not digging, the one thing I don't like about this is I'm still not digging their rivalry, because it still feels like too much, it feels like it's calling too much back to Civil War. I don't know, it was better here than it was first issue, which felt a lot more forced. Here they at least had something to argue about. It's a lot of arguing about whether or not they should have done this, because of course now this Hood guy's got 2 of the gems and their plan didn't work, and there's this really neat scene, by the way, where Wolverine's like, which one of you talked, and they're all like, hold on, Wolverine, what are you doing? And of course he's just trying to sniff it out in case he can sense something from any of them. And of course the big mystery is, turns out none of them really did say anything to anyone, and they're trying to figure out what happened, and then you kind of find out how the Hood managed to get the gems. I'll go a little bit quicker now. Those were the 2 big ones that I had a lot to say, but here's Brightest Day number 18. Things are coming more and more to a head in this series, and I like that it's starting to really feel like stuff is wrapping up. We get really the big end of all the Hawkman, Hawkgirl stuff, which has not been my favorite part of the arc, but it's wrapped up really well, and I actually enjoyed it a lot more as it was wrapping up. I just feel like now that I know where it was going, it was really dragged out. Like, I just felt like I had to read a lot of stuff that I didn't really care about to get where it got. But the curse is broken between them. They're trying to live their lives the way they want them to live them now, but of course it's more complicated than that. And so that's really neat. The White Lantern is doing things. It's starting to power up, and then once it gets to 100%, all hell breaks loose, basically. There's only a few issues left, so I'm sure we'll see each of these arcs start to get wrapped up like this. And it's a giant mystery what's happened to Hawkgirl and Hawkman at the end of this. Then I've got Superman Batman number 80. This is the second part of a 2-part story about this villain called Epoch, the Lord of Time, who went into the 853rd century, I think, to steal a bunch of stuff so that he could go back in time and rule the world in the past. And his history says that he's actually going to get to rule the world in the future, so he's trying to make that happen. And this is your basic time travel romp. I said that last time. It's wrapped up in a nice, neat bow, of course, and it's not it's not real deep stuff, but it's fun to read. The art is really great, and you got the Dick Grayson Robin in the old classic yellow costume, and mostly this is fun. Obviously for nostalgic reasons, and then some of the future stuff is fun too. I really like when we go back to the 853rd century and we find that the Superman and Batman from that period are stuck in a time loop, and Batman keeps saying the same thing over and over again until Superman finally breaks him out of it. That was really funny to me. But anyway, fun stuff. Not genius or anything, but fun. I enjoyed it. Now we get to Action Comics number 897. This was awesome. We get Lex interrogating the Joker, who apparently has one of the black spheres in his cell somehow. And we get to figure out how the Joker ended up with a black sphere. And it turns out that the spheres are like magnetized to people with particular feelings. And the Joker says, "I'm an archetype." And he says that he's an archetype on purpose. And I really like that. I thought that was an interesting thing for the Joker to say. And basically he said that because of the kind of archetype he was, the black sphere came to his cell, and he was able to make it smaller and hide it from guards and stuff. This is an interesting take on the Joker. He's a little bit more lighthearted than Jokers I've seen lately. But yeah, man, Joker and Lex, I could read a whole miniseries with Joker and Lex just bantering. Then, Green Arrow number 8, I had no intention of getting this because I've decided to put this, to stop picking this book up. I just haven't been loving where it's going. But I ended up getting this before I was able to pull it off my pull, so I have number 8. And I'm glad I dropped it because I just don't care about anything that's going on here. It's not bad, it's just, I think my personal preference with Green Arrow is urban stuff. Green Arrow fighting on the streets of his city. Supernatural and Green Arrow, for me, just doesn't mix. There's this weird thing at the beginning with Lois Lane where she shows up and she's covering this magic forest thing, and it seems like she's just there so that we can say, hey, Lois Lane is still around, and I know we're not doing anything cool with her in Superman, but just so you know, she's still around and important and stuff. A character shows up that I thought maybe they'd do things with and it would be cool, and then it turned out that it was just a cameo, and then what they did was infinitely less interesting. Poison Ivy is there, and Lois is talking to this other reporter, and he's like, "What's Poison Ivy doing?" And then it turns out she's just there on like a pilgrimage to this magic forest, and it makes sense that she's doing that. But I don't know. I thought a Poison Ivy story with Green Arrow with this magic forest thing would have been really cool. But that's not what happened, and instead we had to follow a lot of characters that I just don't know very well and don't know anything about, and didn't find them especially interesting and compelling in this context. There's Jason Blood. Let's see, Dr. Midnight and Mr. Terrific, again, characters I just don't know much about, and they just weren't real interesting here to me. I wanted to briefly bring to your attention, in case you don't know about it, a book that I recently discovered from DC. It's a kid's book, and I know it's going to seem kind of strange to some of you that I'm going to mention this and recommend this series, but I picked up recently an issue of Tiny Titans. And this is not the most recent issue. This is from a couple months ago. But I picked it up because the cover cracked me up, because it's the all Robin issue, and it shows all these Robins on the front, including Jason Toddler. When I saw that, I just had to pick it up because it cracked me up. This, of course, is a really jokey kind of comic, because it's a kids comic. It's really jokey, and it doesn't really have like an ongoing story. It feels a lot more like a newspaper strip. It's a lot more of like jokey pages, but then the whole issue is like loosely connected by a central idea. And in this one, there's too many Robins, and the main Robin doesn't like that there's all these different Robins, and so he's trying to do something to separate himself. And so, of course, later on, he puts on his Nightwing suit. What baffles me about this is that it's clearly written for kids, and yet I think you almost have to be older, and you have to be into older continuity and current continuity to even really appreciate this. Me reading it at my age, and me being as much of a fan of Batman as I am, this felt like a reward for keeping up. For me, there's all these just hilarious references to things like I said, Jason Todd, and then Cassandra Cain is hilarious. She's got this great, really funny costume, and she just runs around scaring people with it. And then they've got the bat poles from the '60s show, and then there's a joke about Damien. Anyway, this obviously is not for everyone, but this is the kind of humor that cracks me up. And if you just feel like having something really laid back and hilarious to read, to mix it up with all the serious stuff, this is where to go. This is funny like Powerpuff Girls is funny. Finally, Spawn number 201. When I cracked this open and I looked at the art, I had every intention of not liking this. Intention's not the right word. I didn't think I would like this. And I really did. I was very surprised. This does directly follow issue 200. It does have a lot to do with that, but it feels like such a different book because it's not the over-the-top, splashy, colorful Spawn art that I like, and it's also the writing is more downplayed and the art is more downplayed. We're really exploring the new Spawn. We're really dissecting Jim Downing here, and he goes on a talk show. And the lady running the talk show is apparently like this big famous talk show host, and figures that someone will call in and say if they've heard or heard of or know Jim Downing, because he doesn't know who he is. And then there's these flashbacks to this other thing that happened previously in the day, where Jim Downing was confronted by another undead creature who claimed to have news about who he actually is. But I really like how this guy's drawing Spawn. I didn't think I like it. I like this book to be more of a superhero book. Right now it's going back to looking more like a horror book, but for a horror book, it's really quite good. And those are my reviews for the week. Now, on to news. Okay, we've got a few different news items today. The first relates to something I talked about a couple weeks ago when I mentioned that no network was picking up Wonder Woman, and it turns out that there indeed is going to be a Wonder Woman TV show finally, and it's really interesting how it happened. NBC wasn't going to, didn't look like they were going to pick it up because they were having a changeover in the head of NBC. The old head stepped down. There was a new one coming in. They weren't sure if it was going to happen, but it looked like it wasn't. And indeed, it did happen. Their new boss decided that he was all for it, and they went ahead and picked it up. So Wonder Woman is going to happen, and they're hoping for it to actually happen in the 2011 to 2012 season. So they've ordered a pilot, and with a good chance of ordering a full 12 episodes for their first season. So there you go. So we're gonna get Wonder Woman, and we'll see how that all turns out. I'm waiting to see what happens. Of course, I'm not a giant Wonder Woman fan, but hey, if it's good, I will be very interested in seeing it. So there we go. I'm looking for the big thing to turn me into a Wonder Woman fan, and maybe this will be awesome, and that'll be it. So there we go. I wanted to talk about the way Marvel is handling the Fantastic Four death thing. And of course, I mentioned earlier that the person who died in that issue is Human Torch. And I'd love to say that's a spoiler, but Marvel went off and spoiled it for us by leaking it to the Associated Press this week before the issue came out. This really angered me, actually, and I hate to be. Again, I hate to be fanboyish and get angry about stupid stuff like this, but it does irritate me, and let me explain why. It looked like this was going to be the time they weren't going to do it, and I was really happy about that. I was really excited because, on the one hand, yeah, Marvel's been killing off way too many people lately, but at least we could get to see who it was by reading the issue rather than finding out 2, 3, 6 months before it happened. We knew about the Batman death months before it happened. Granted, we had no idea that it was actually not going to be a death, that he was going to get sent back. But really, like that was leaked by DC in like November, and then it happened like I don't know, was it toward the summer, in the spring, going into summer, with Final Crisis. So anyway, Marvel did it with Captain America, of course, and pretty much everybody they've ever killed off, they've done it this way. Human Torch looked like it was going to be different, and I can't say I was excited that they were going to kill somebody off in Fantastic Four, but I've been loving this series, and I've only been reading it since the beginning of this arc, which I started knowing they were going to kill someone off. Because again, we knew it was going to be someone, we just didn't know who. And in the last issue before this week's, it was set up so that all 4 of the Fantastic Four were in perilous situations. There was no way to tell which one was going to die. And I was just looking forward, as much as it wasn't going to be really impactful for me for the universe, because naturally they always bring these people back sooner than we probably would like them to if we want a death to be impactful. I was looking, just for the context of the story, I was looking forward to getting to see who it was going to be reading the narrative, and I didn't get that chance because Marvel leaked it. And it's because I keep up. It's because I read comic news, and I was looking around, seeing what the news was this week, and a lot of headlines had Human Torch in the headline, and I was like, that's not fair. That's not cool. Like, why don't you just say someone in Fantastic Four is dying, and then maybe within the article somewhere reveal that it's Human Torch. So I don't know. It irritates me that the media latches onto this kind of stuff. I don't know why that happens. I don't know why people think that that's necessarily newsworthy. Comics are hardly ever newsworthy except for when they do something controversial or they kill someone. And sometimes not even really that controversial. I mean, Wonder Woman getting a new costume was all over the media. I don't get it. It's strange that these sorts of things happen, but they're all for the people not keeping up. And for those of us that are, I mean, I didn't want to know. It was spoiled to me by national media. I don't know, that irritates me, and I did want to put in a quick plug real quick for Zipblock Gory, who did a video about this, and specifically about character deaths, and he had this idea that he thinks that they should just make a rule, DC and Marvel. And he said that a lot of independents, kill people off and keep them dead for the most part. That's true for the most part. But he said, the rule ought to be, let's keep them dead for at least 10 years and not bring them back until after that. I thought that was a great idea. And even if not that, something, just so that we can... just so that it's not so gimmicky, because that's all it is. It's just this giant gimmick, and this was gonna be the one, it looked like to me, and then it turned out that that Marvel did what they always did, even though they waited until this week, and tried to make a big, giant news story out of it. I wish that hadn't happened, because I was looking forward to finding out. But anyway, so I hate to complain and be that irritated about something that's probably not that big of a deal to your average person, but just look at it from the perspective of someone trying to enjoy entertainment, and it's frustrating. But anyway, another somewhat sad thing that happened this week is Wizard folded. Wizard is done. No more Wizard magazine. No more Toy Fair magazine. And it's not especially surprising, especially when you start looking at their circulation, because at their peak they were selling about on average 100,000 issues. That figure is as of like 1998. I think that was like their peak. November of last year, 17,000 is all they were selling, and it's not surprising. You certainly, and a lot of folks online have been talking about this, and they're all right. It's obvious why this is happening. Because of internet circulation, and magazines are going digital. We're not going to have magazines anymore. Eventually, you're going to see pretty much everything go this way, and print's going the way of the dinosaurs. And as I've said for a long time, I hope it takes a while for that to happen to comic books. Although I still imagine that even when it does happen to comics, you're still going to get books come out in trade. I think people like having hard copies of things like that. But when it's just news, when it's something that you're going to read once and probably not pick up again, I see why this is happening. But a lot of people are saying, all the stuff that was in Wizard you could get online. And that's true, but then of course they had staff writers that people might like that had ideas about things. They do, top 50 lists, top 100 lists, things like that. And pictures are nice. And I'm just saying, I mean, like there's a validity to print magazines, and it's a little bit sad to see them going away, although I think part of that is just nostalgia for me. When I was a kid, I used to go to, my dad was a restaurant manager, and when I was like 12, I used to hang out with my dad while he was closing up his store, and while I was waiting for the store to close, sometimes I would go next door to the grocery store, and I would look at magazines. I looked at Wizard all the time that way. I never had a subscription to Wizard, but I bought it occasionally, and I read it there a lot, and so I have a bit of a nostalgia for Wizard, but I haven't kept up with it in a really long time. And so, but the irony is, I was just about to get a subscription. I was going to do it next month. I was all, like, I'm not even kidding, I was all ready to go. I got a disturbing message from someone who, I'm sorry, I didn't write it down, I don't remember who it was, but I got a message from someone who said that they recently bought a subscription, and now that they folded, he's not going to get his money back. I hope that's not true. Surely they're gonna reimburse everyone for the issues they didn't get. Sure, every magazine I've ever seen fold has done this for people. But anyway, Wizard's not going to be completely gone and forgotten. They're, of course, going to continue online, Wizard World, and we'll see how it goes. We'll see if they still manage to be, anything like a major player in the comic book world like they used to. And finally, there's some new pictures of the Spider-Man costume. Here they are. And this was sent to me actually by Philly Superman. Wanted to thank him for bringing this to my attention. Some new photos that were caught on set. It doesn't look like they were supposed to be leaked, but they did. There they are. The wonderful world of the internet. Sometimes we get these things earlier than maybe we should, but it can be fun nevertheless. So now we've seen the mask. What do I think of the mask? So far, so good. I say it looks very old school. The mask does. I like big, giant Spider-Man eyes, but that's just a personal preference thing. My favorite Spider-Man art is McFarlane's Spider-Man art, and of course, he made the eyes like half the face. But I still think it looks really cool. I also think that if you think that it looks a little bit corny, a little too TV show, just remember that who knows if that's actually what it's going to look like on screen, because there's always the possibility of like special effects enhancements and things like that. And also, I don't know the context of these pictures, so it's always possible that it's the stunt costume. Also, I thought about that. Now that we've seen it in full, it's really cool to get to see the web shooters. There's these things on his feet, and I wonder if that's supposed to be for like when he's climbing, because that was a question I always had with Spider-Man. Was like, okay, well, you have the ability to climb walls with your hands. And of course, your feet too, but like you've got like stuff covering your hands and stuff covering your feet. So like, how does that work? So I wonder if the things on his feet have something to do with that. I hope they're not web shooters on his feet. Like, it'd be weird if he shot webs out of it. Surely not. But anyway, I was just kind of wondering what those metal things were on his feet. And anyway, that's all the news for this week. And now, how about a trivia question? Today's trivia question is, Christophe Bernard is the adopted son of what major Marvel supervillain? Now, if you think you know, be sure to leave it in the comments below. Tell me what you think it is, and the first person who gets it right, I will mention in the show next week and give your channel a shout-out. Our question from last week was, in what book did the mantle of Red Robin first appear? Not the Tim Drake Red Robin, but just the costume, the mantle of Red Robin. And the correct answer to that, of course, was Kingdom Come. I think it was actually specifically the second issue of Kingdom Come, and the first person to get that correct was D-Ball719. So well done to you, and once again, leave your answer to this question in the comments below. And now, it's time once again for Obscure Character of the Week. Obscure Character of the Week is brought to you by the Shi'ar. The Shi'ar, better than humans in every conceivable way, except possibly fashion sense. Have you ever heard of Zebra Man? First appearing in Detective Comics number 275 in 1960 and co-created by Bill Finger, this Batman villain had the ability to attract and repel anything except metal due to radiation from a lab accident. What else? The radiation gave Jake Baker black and white glowing stripes, so he took on the alter ego of Zebra Man. He controlled his powers with a special belt. He went on a crime spree and fought Batman and Robin. Batman was affected by his radiation and briefly got the same power, which he used to magnetically attract Zebra Man and take him to jail. There was also a second Zebra Man created by Cobra using Jake Baker's original experiment. And naturally, being as obscure as he is, he's appeared in Batman Brave and the Bold 4 times. And I'd like to thank Mr. Decepticon Leader for the suggestion. Hey, if you have a suggestion for Obscure Character of the Week, or you've got some fan art you want to show off, or a question you'd like me to answer on the show, or maybe a comic or a series you want me to review, anything like that, feel free to send me a message on our channel, Geekvolution. Send me a personal message, and I'd love to hear from you. And now, once again, it's time to find out what's in the Comic Vault. Today in the Comic Vault, we've got Green Arrow number 11 from 2002. I read a lot of current Green Arrow last year, and it was really my first introduction to the character in the comics, though his initial run of episodes in Smallville is what first intrigued me with the character. I haven't read any issues around this one, but were this still the year 2002, I'd say this would be a decent jumping on point. The issue takes place shortly after Oliver's return from the dead. He's taken in a teenage girl named Mia, who is insisting on becoming his next sidekick and donning the mantle of Speedy. Kevin Smith addresses a lot of concerns that earlier eras of comics dismissed. Why do so many superheroes train children and teenagers to fight alongside them? And how has none of them ever been arrested for this behavior? A question Ollie addresses directly, and there's a nice, dry sense of humor to it. And is crime fighting really as glamorous as it may seem to the young, naive, and ambitious? There are two arguments presented in smart ways by Oliver against Mia becoming Speedy, and by Arsenal, who is for it, and of course, points out the flaws in Oliver's logic considering his own past. Neither Oliver or Mia completely went out in the end, but I like that she's talked down enough to not immediately put on the costume. There's some classic Kevin Smith writing, and though I'm not intimately familiar with his work, I was surprised to see a mention of a giant typewriter, which he apparently uses a lot, a factoid I discovered listening to Browncoat Eric's review of Kevin Smith's recent Green Hornet run. This was one issue in Kevin Smith's run, and there it was. The art is reminiscent of the style in Bruce Timm's DC animation from Batman the Animated Series, Justice League, etc., and there was a lot of that going on at DC in the early 2000s. I've never been entirely keen on the simplicity of this kind of art in comics, and it works a lot better in the action scenes than on pages with a lot of dialogue. Well, hey, that's all the time we have for tonight. I want to thank Pop Culture Comics, where I got my comics this week, and if you're ever in the Kansas City area, be sure to check them out in Overland Park, Kansas. Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to support your local comic book store, and remember, if your monthly series ever gets canceled, there's always the off chance that you could be the backup feature in detective or action comics. Thanks again for watching, and this is Captain Logan, signing off.